Hey guys, Chris here. An interesting video today. I want to focus on music, and particularly a kind of music I used to listen to, and a lot of perhaps similar generation to me, and the importance of music and stopping us from stepping into our sovereignty. More so, the kind of music which might have made you feel free, particularly when you were younger, feeling quite rebellious. So I wanted to focus on the band Blink-182 today. And although some of the stuff that maybe I talk about might seem quite obvious, but I really want to talk about and focus on the area of sovereignty, and how this stops you stepping into your masculine power. How a lot of these kind of music bands in this so-called pop punk genre actually allowed a lot of us to stay infantile, avoiding growing up. If you look at the lyrics, there's a lot of codependency, a lot of immaturity. And for these men that were probably men at the time, and perhaps some of us listening to were boys or we were teenagers, and you're seeing 30-40-year-old men talking this way about codependent relationships, about women being dumped by women, that the happiness is outside of themselves. So I want to really go a bit deeper, and I want to read some stuff off ChatGPT. So if you can bear with me, what I put into ChatGPT, which is interesting, is using a few of my favorite influences and say, based on the media deconstruction, the behavior style, and psychological sovereignty, what would this person say? And ChatGPT is really interesting because it will bring it back. And I was just curious to know, and some of this is somewhat like looking at the red pill, which it really sprung out on me, and thinking, oh, this music, the fact that I still listen to some of this music from time to time and sing the lyrics, can have a sort of psychological effect. So what it starts with saying is that when we examine bands like Blink-182 through the lens of behavioral psychology, media manipulation, mind control, we can see that this passes for rebellion in popular culture is often nothing more than pre-packaged compliance, a psychological diversion designed to corral youthful energy into dead-end loops of dysfunction, immaturity, and self-sabotage. So for a lot of us, we're going into negative thought patterns and cycles. If you even really look at the lyrics and think about what you're repeating, the more stuff that you repeat on a loop feeds into your subconscious mind. So if you're listening to lyrics where it's really going back into your mind about missing a girl or this or that, and I can understand like these songs when you're in a certain emotion and you're feeling grief or you're feeling anger and frustration, but when you're just going about your everyday, to feed this stuff into your mind, it's probably not the best of things. So five particular areas that I want to focus on, which came back, which we'll go through. I'll just read these out to you so you know. So first one is perpetual adolescence as a tool of control. Second, rebellion without teeth. 3, normalizing dysfunction. 4, controlled opposition in cultural form. 5, trauma bond with the audience. And then we'll get into a conclusion. So let's just look at this, and probably breaches on conspiracy to a certain extent, and how these sort of rock stars, these music stars, do come out, and they are put into certain light, which I don't think is necessarily maybe a conspiracy. It's because of the collective consciousness of the planet, and they know that whoever's signing this band knows that by putting a band like this out, it will affect, it will appeal to most of but as we can sort of see with what happens in the world, is there's always certain agendas, certain genres of market of music, they evolve and they go out. So it says Blink-182 didn't just internationally raise to fame despite their immaturity and irrelevance. They rose to fame because of it. They are part of a larger system of weaponized media designed to keep the public, especially the youth, emotionally stunted and psychologically compromised. Their brand of pop-punk rebellion is the perfect vehicle for encouraging self-destructive behavior under the guise of humor, freedom, and individuality. So this topic of humor is really important, because humor has been proven to really sink into the subconscious mind without you even thinking. So when you're watching these sitcoms, Friends or whatever, and you hear a laughter track and people laughing, then that can just go straight into the mind, even if it's crazy, So humor kind of takes away the seriousness of it, and yes, I thought I mentioned that point. So let's look into this. So perpetual adolescence of as a tool of control. So the band's entire identity is rooted in juvenile humor, toilet jokes, and adolescence emotionality. This isn't accidental. This is intentional programming where the masses are encouraged to stay young forever. They remain easier to control. Adults who never grow up don't ask deep questions, don't challenge authority effectively, and don't build strong communities rooted in values. Instead, they binge entertainment, ridicule responsibility, and mock traditional wisdom. So yeah, the thing that stands out here is it's demasculating men, keeping men as boys. You know, the more you listen to this music, you go to the concerts, you sing the songs, you're sort of putting into your mind that you're a child, and you know, this is the sort of memories, the nostalgia is going back to that time, you know, wanting to be that little boy. But this is what keeps you as that man-child, you know. Imagine Mr. Bean or someone like that. You know, someone who doesn't grow up. Peter Pan syndrome. So this is the sort of stuff that's keeping you young. And if you look around, you look at the media, this thing was a massive eye-opener to me, because it's just one band we're using here. But you can start pointing to all of the bands, all of the movies, all of the TV shows. You'll see a lot of men who are being demasculated. Rebellion without teeth. So Blink-182 gives the illusion of authoritarianism, sarcastic jabs at school, parents, the government, but it's rebellion that never targets the actual control structure. You never hear songs from them criticising the media ownerships, the banking systems, medical tyranny, or engineered food systems. Why? Because their rebellious action is safe to send a behavioural loop that satisfies the young mind to urge to resist, but leads nowhere. It's the psychological equivalent of letting a child throw a tantrum in a padded room. So yeah, if you imagine, it's like getting angry, getting rebellious at sort of like life or school or whatever, but that doesn't actually challenge authority. You know, the rebellion energy is not used to literally say, you know, if you're rebellious about school, you don't like school, it's not to say, all right, I'm just gonna do my own thing, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. When you give energy to the system, when you fight the system, you know, you're using that energy on yourself. So normalizing dysfunction, the third point. Look at the recurrent themes: emotional instability, meaningless sex, self-loathing, drug use, and general disconnection from purpose. These aren't just lyrics, these are psychological affirmations. Repeated exposure normalizes these behaviors and turns them into lifestyle choices. This is a form of mass entrainment. The subconscious doesn't filter sarcasm or irony, it absorbs the input as real. So when someone listens to What's My Age Again, hundreds of times the brain waves in the belief that immaturity is not only normal but desirable. So as I mentioned, if you're repeating things now and again, you're singing it in the shower, you're singing it in karaoke, you're singing it on the radio, a chorus as well, which is going to be repeated numerous times, and sometimes a word like What's My Age Again is probably said maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like 20, 30 times on the song. You know, I think I remember it said a few times in the chorus. So yeah, this sinks in, and all of the jokes and, you know, the casual hookups and the getting dumped and this sort of stuff, you know, it sinks into your mind, you know, the drinking, and yeah, it just normalizes it. And these guys now, I listened to the last album, which I did enjoy, but you know, they're like 40, 50 now, and they're still talking like as if they're teenagers, you know, and they have to, because their ego identity is absorbed. Blink-182 they could just mature and do something different, which I think would work as well, because they've done some mature albums as well, well, I say mature. When you look at it from a point of sovereignty, this is where we're coming to. This is a channel, guys. This is about individuating, being a sovereign man, you know, not being a boy, being a man. You know, when you listen to this music and you were drawn to it, you were a boy, you know, and now it's about being a man. And it can be hard to let go, you know, this is part of our identity, it's part of our ego, the music we like. But this is just one element, it's not all to do with the music. You know, and you know, we're not looking to blame people as well. You're not really letting anger out, you're just sort of realizing more about yourself. So number 4, controlling opposition in cultural forms. So the most effective control systems always include a mechanism for controlled opposition. Blink-182 serves this role in the music industry. They draw into those artificial mainstream culture, and they redirect their energy into a non-threatening circular rebellion. The music says, yes, the world is messed up, so just laugh about it, get high, sleep around, and don't try to fix anything. That's empowerment. That's not empowerment, that's pacification. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, the world is terrible. Let's just enjoy the ride, let's drink on a Friday night, let's do this, let's do drugs. And that should be a phase that everyone goes through. Like, I'm out in Thailand now, and on some of the islands I see people, it's 18. I think some people are under 18, drinking, smoking weed, and I think that's fine. Like, I went through that, like, as that age, but eventually that you should snap out of that cycle. When you're still doing that at 40, it can be to do with and you listening to this music, I guarantee that this is sort of filtering into your mind as well. So, the world is burning and it's not great maybe, but we can still do something. As long as you're doing something, your life should have meaning. If you don't, then your life doesn't have meaning and you're being cooked in the soup with everyone, as Carl Jung says. So number 5, trauma bonding with the audience. Yeah, so many people from the deep attachments to bands like Blink-182, they heard them during the times of personal struggle. Yeah, I could completely relate to this. But what they don't realize is that the band was part of a programming that reinforced the trauma in the first place. Music becomes a form of trauma bonding, an anchor that ties to people to an identity rooted in pain, confusion, and a sense of lost direction. It's addictive, and it's by design. Yeah, so with that, I mean, when I was listening to Blink-182, I'm sure I wasn't in a good place. I didn't feel like I fitted in, and all of this stuff, and everything else is kind of in it. Your trauma, you're finding them, your trauma bond. When you trauma bond with someone, it's from them this father you don't have, or whatever it is, and they're meeting that need. They're sort of like bringing you in, relating to you, relating to that emotion. They're allowed to be emotional on the world stage, on the big stage. So that's important. So I'm just going to read the conclusion, and we can just finalize what we've talked about. So conclusion: entertainment or entrainment is the question. So once you see through these patterns, you can't unsee them. Blink-182 is an isolated case. It's a part of a much larger web of entertainment-based psychological operations. Their mission, whether conscious or not, is to prevent the emerge of strong sovereign adults who think critically, take responsibility for their lives, and operate from a place of grounded maturity. If you're serious about reclaiming your mind, your energy, and your future, you must begin to question not just what you believe, but those beliefs that came from it. Start here, and that's how you take your power back. Yeah, so now it's kind of like the red pill. Now you can't help what you've seen. And as well, it's just to sometimes question these things. Why did this band raise to fame? Why does it appeal to so many people? Why are there so many people, older adults, still going to watch them live? Why is people never really analyze the lyrics? Like, they're fun, they're jokey, they're catchy, but a lot of that is from the past. The part of you in the past that likes that catchy kind of music. You're drawn, you're kind of trauma bonded or connected, like a soul tie with this kind of music. Like, I need this music for the rest of my life because it saved me, and maybe it did, or maybe it gave you some sort of connection, but childhood is over. And these kind of musics, the rebellion, it's not questioning the deeper stuff. If I was to write a song, or you people listening now with the sovereignty and the spiritual awareness, these sort of songs are not spiritually awake. They maybe touch a part of your soul, but they're not, and they're channeling some sort of spirit energy. But the rock stars that sing these songs, but they're not actually empowering people. They're not making people listen to the music, and they're going away and they're thinking, wow, I'm going to change my life. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I connected with that person. They feel my grief. They feel the rejection this girl gave me. But the codependency, that the crying over getting dumped by women, it's like, it's very old news, like when you're 18 maybe. You want to grow up, you want to step into sovereignty. So as hard as it is to analyze some of this music and bands that I like, and I feel like I'm going down the red pill, and I want to bring some more videos, but that's my sort of what I got from the thanks of ChatGPT and a few people that I like online, which I put into the formula as well. But I advise you just to be creative. I don't really want to sort of share what I put in because because it's just good to get everyone else's point of view, and what influences you and what exactly you're looking for. But let me know what you think of this video, and I'll speak to you soon on the next one.